بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His blessing that we are on the night of the 27th of Ramadan, and this is a blessed night, one of the nights where there is a good possibility that it is the night of Laylatul Qadr, as what is mentioned by some of our scholars. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and make this gathering a reason for our forgiveness, a reason for all goodness that can be attained in dunya and akhirah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the goodness that is asked by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we ask Allah for protection from all the things that were asked by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for protection. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with iman and taqwa and purify our hearts and make us any among those who are close to Him, among those who remember Him, among those any who obey Him and refrain from His prohibitions. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with afiyah and health and husnul khatimah and understanding in deen, and that we are able to practice what we have learned from the Hikmah of Al-Imam Ibn al-Iskandari. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gather us our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam Yawm al-Qiyamah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. So inshallah today we will go on into the wisdom number 17, and yesterday we have completed the wisdom number 16, and it is the longest wisdom in the Hikam. And if you look at the previous wisdom, it focused on Aqidah, on understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understanding the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and understanding some of the attributes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and with a profound understanding in the knowledge of Al-Aqidah, and bless us with yaqeen and conviction. Then Al-Imam Ibn al-Iskandari, after he has spoken a lot about matters pertaining to faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now he will speak about the branches. He mentioned in this particular wisdom, ma taraka min al-jahli shay'an man arada an yuhditha fil waqti ghayra ma adharahu Allah fihi. Yani he mentioned that it is an ignorance, for someone to bring about something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not command or does not will. So what is the meaning of this wisdom? Last time in the Hikam of Ibn al-Iskandari, I think last year or 2 years ago, when we speak about the different types of a'mal, it depends on the different types of ahwal. That in order to understand obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to understand al-ahwal. We have to understand the situations. When we look at our situation and we study our situation, then we can understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. But before we go into this, I summarize it into 2 points. Number one, it is something that is established. In Arabic, we call it al-jami'ul mushtarak, where every individual Muslim has to perform it. For example, the 5 daily prayers. No matter what situation you are in, whether you are working or you are having a business or whether you are a student, all of us has to perform the 5 daily prayers. This is something that is established in Deen. No matter what situation you are in, even you are musafir, even you are sick, every one of us has an obligation to perform this kind of command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is an example of al-jami'ul mushtarak. Al-jami' al-mushtarak, any meaning it is an obligation that is upon everyone without any exception. Without any exception. This is the first part, the first point. The second point is al-ahwal. That's what I mentioned earlier. Situations. There are certain things that is obligatory for someone but not obligatory to another person. Because this is not something that is jami' al-mushtarak. It is not something that is shared upon all, or an obligation that is given to everyone. So here Al-Imam Ibn Ata' al-Iskandari is speaking about al-jami' al-mushtarak and speaking about ahwal. So as a Muslim, we must understand both of these points. What is al-jami' al-mushtarak and what is al-ahwal? And ahwal can change. Today a person is single, tomorrow he gets married, and then after some time he gets children, and then after some time he is given the obligation or responsibility to lead a particular team or to lead a particular organization, or he becomes the leader of the country. So situations can change. Today you are a student, tomorrow you become a father, and you have a job that you have to perform, and you have responsibilities towards your parents, to take care of your parents. Today our parents are taking care of us, but tomorrow they are unable to take care of us. We now have the responsibility to take care of them. So can you see this ahwal? This is what we meant, change. Can you see these changes in life? Life is about change. Everything change. Last time we are young, then we become old. Last time we are free, but now we are not that free, because we have responsibilities. Last time we do not have children, now we have children. There are responsibilities. Last time we are not married, now we are married. So the responsibilities, there's a shift of responsibilities. So as a Muslim, we must understand the rulings that comes together with these changes. We cannot only be saying, but I just want to stay like when I was 17 years old. Because when I was 17 years old, everything was good, I have all the freedom. So I want my life all the way like 17 years old. This shows that this person is ignorant, jahil. This is what Shaykh Ibn Ata' al-Iskandari is saying. That any part of ignorance is when a person do not have the ability to understand ahwal. And part of ignorance, we apply a set of rulings to a particular situation which is not correct, where it's supposed to be such, but we apply such. Meaning we apply a particular ruling in a situation which is different than what is supposed to be. This is also any part of ignorance. So last time I gave some examples. I gave examples pertaining to family. I gave examples pertaining to education. I gave examples pertaining to work. And subhanallah, once you understand this principle, you can apply in every situation. Whether we are speaking about family, whether we are speaking about working in the industry, whether we are speaking about businesses, whether we are speaking about politics, if you understand this principle, you can speak to all groups of people in whatever field they are. And this is very important because this is a pivot. Once you understand the pivot, then comes in the application, and easy for you to do da'wah. But if you don't understand this reality, then there is an issue, there is a mushkilah, and that mushkilah is ignorance, al-jahl. This is what Shaykh Ibn Ta'ala can say. So a Muslim who is wise is a Muslim who understand al-jami' al-mushtarak and understand the ahwal and can differentiate between the two and can find any solutions to whatever situations that he is in, and he can provide solutions for others. When you see a particular person in a particular situation, he can advise the right way, and people will benefit. So before I speak about ahwal, I speak about jami' al-mushtarak. Al-jami' al-mushtarak. So what is jami' al-mushtarak? I gave an example of prayers just now. There are many other things. Basically, we are speaking about fardu ain, knowledge of fardu ain, ibadah based on fardu ain. It is compulsory upon every Muslim to learn knowledge that is fardu ain. So now as a Muslim, we understand that it is compulsory upon us, firstly, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believe in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to seek knowledge of tawheed, knowledge of seerah, to understand Allah, to understand the attributes, to understand the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then it is compulsory upon us to learn about as-salah, because prayer is the pillar of deen. As-salatu imadud din. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned prayers is the pillar of deen. Man aqamaha faqad aqama ad-din. Those who establish any prayers, as though he has established the religion. Wa man tarakaha faqad hadama ad-din. Those who does not perform any prayers, as though he has destroyed his religion. So it is compulsory upon every Muslim to learn about prayers, to learn about tahara, because your prayers will not be valid if you do not perform the purification. What are the pillars of wudu? What are the conditions of al-wudu? What is any istinja? What is ma'al mutlaq? To differentiate between what water that we can use for raf'ul hadath, and pertaining to tayammum when we do not have water, and when musafir, pertaining to jama' and qasr. So all this is jami' al-mushtarak, and knowledge that it is compulsory upon everyone to seek, whether you are a businessman, or whether you are learning in a madrasa, or you are learning in a government school, or whether you are still studying or working, or you are a father, and so on and so forth. So as a Muslim, we must make sure that these knowledges we have achieved. As long as we don't have not achieved any of these knowledges, it becomes an obligation upon us. It is like a debt to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we must make sure that Jami' al-Mushtarak, everything is achieved as a Muslim. This is the minimum requirement. We are speaking about minimum requirement. Likewise, when it comes in the knowledge of zakah, the knowledge of saum, fasting, the knowledge of al-hajj, when a person has the ability to go to hajj, the knowledge of buying and selling. Every Muslim must learn about buying and selling. It is fardu ain, not fardu kifayah. Because every one of us buying and selling. It doesn't mean you need to be a businessman then you learn fiqh mu'amalat. So we have to understand about the rulings any pertaining to buying and selling. What is riba? Today you ask any Muslim, any outside in our society, what are the pillars of buying and selling? How many any can answer you? If you ask any 10 people, guess how many can answer you? So you can do survey, inshallah. You will find many, most do not know, correct. What are the conditions in your buying and selling? What are the types in your riba? This is fardu ain or fardu kifaya? This is fardu ain. Now we say this is jami'ul mushtarak. Every Muslim and he must learn. But if you do not learn, any what happens? You are sinful. Correct or not? When we say fardu ain, the obligation and still it becomes a debt. Like hutang. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us this obligation. So all of us must fulfill this minimum requirement. When it comes to the chapter of nikah, when a person get married, before he get married, then he must make sure that he has studied the chapter of nikah. And this is wajib. Not any sunnah, not fardu kifaya. This is wajib and upon everyone who wants to get married. If a person gets married and without knowing anything about chapter of nikah, what is nafaqah, what is talaq, what are the different kinds of talaq, what are the what you call it, mahram, sinful or not sinful? Sinful. Likewise, knowledge of faraid. A person he has wealth, then he has to learn any knowledge of faraid. He has to educate the family members, and if he passes away, how they distribute the wealth. Today we have a big problem in what you call in our society, because people do not learn faraid. So when someone passes away, then they do not know what to do with the asset. So as a Muslim, we must understand that this knowledge is wajib. This knowledge is wajib. Pertaining to fiqhul jinayat, it is fardu kifaya. Pertaining to learning about hudud, learning about al-qasas, not al-qasas, al-qisas, al-qasas, al-qasas stories, al-qisas. There is a difference between al-qasas and al-qisas. For the lady can sit behind. Boleh duduk sini dulu. No problem. Yeah, she can come in, no problem. It is fardu kifaya. Especially for people who want to speak about Islam to non-Muslim. They must learn fiqhul jinayah. Because nowadays non-Muslims they have any difficulty in understanding about hudud. They are afraid of hudud because of this ISIS and all these issues happening in Syria. As though Islam is a barbaric religion that is waiting for people to be stoned or to cut people's hand. So we have to learn about fiqhul jinayat. We have to learn about the ruling of qisas, so that we are able to understand and able to educate people. Today it becomes very important. Knowledge pertaining to slavery also. Last time when I was learning fiqh jinayat and learning about slavery, we were wondering why we were studying this fiqh pertaining to slavery, the different kinds of slavery. We have Abdul Mukatab, Abd and Muba'ad, Abdul Qin, all these different kinds of slaves. But subhanallah, as time passed by, I felt the importance of learning on this subject, because nowadays people ask you, especially non-Muslims, even Muslims, they ask about slavery, because the last time we have rulings pertaining to slavery. So we have to learn. This is fardu kifaya, so that we can educate ourselves and we can also educate others, because people are asking. And this is fardu kifaya, not wajib for everyone. I need to learn. But if you learn, you will attain rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rewards based on fardu kifaya is much more than rewards based on fardu ain. Remember this. I mentioned this many times. Rewards based on fardu kifaya is more than rewards based on fardu ain. Why? Because fardu kifaya you are giving benefit to people, whereas fardu ain it is your own obligation. Tamam? So this is al-jami'ul mushtarak. The minimum requirement minimum requirement for a Muslim is to study about these knowledges. We say this is a minimum requirement. Wajib upon everyone, no matter what conditions you are in. That's what we mentioned. Whether you are a teacher, or whether you are a businessman, or whether you are working, or whether you are not working, it is wajib and upon you and to learn any of these knowledges. The knowledge any of al-aqidah, the knowledge any of al-fiqh, and also the knowledge of tasawwuf. The knowledge any of tasawwuf. How are we able to rectify any our hearts? How are we able to, what you call it, make ourselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembrance any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is also wajib. So as a Muslim, we must make sure that we have fulfilled al-jami'ul mushtarak. This is the first thing, before anything else. So we have to do muhasabah. Now today, what are the knowledges that I'm in need? We have to ask ourselves, have we learned any of those knowledges? If the answer is yes, that is good news. That is good news. But if the answer is no, we make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we put our intention, inshallah, to put in efforts, inshallah, to seek this knowledge before anything else. And do not be influenced by what people are saying. You have to be focused. Ask yourself, what are the knowledge you need? Because nowadays there are certain knowledges, in reality you don't really need. Certain knowledges you don't really need. Let me give you an example. A person who don't study fiqh, he does not study about the rulings pertaining to prayers, rulings pertaining to fasting, and he is in need any of these rulings. But he busy himself learning the knowledge of hadith. And you see, what this person should focus is to learn Jami'ul Mushtarak. Focus on the knowledges that is wajib. Then only you go to the knowledges that is not any Jami' Mushtarak, that is Fardu Kifaya and so on and so forth. If you have not learned any fiqhul ibadat, you should not go into fiqhul jinayat. And now you learn about the rulings of hudud, or you learn about the rulings of qisas, you learning the rulings of abid. But when it comes to ibadat, prayers, you do not know what is rukun and what is sunnah. Now this is not correct. So we have to give our focus first, Jami'ul Mushtarak ya Jama'ah. So we have to really look at this issue. This is a serious issue. You find a lot of Muslims in our society, they are confused. They do not know where to start. So you must guide them. A lot of our youngsters, when they want to seek this knowledge of Islam, they are lost. They do not know anywhere to start. So if you know, then you can advise them and tell them where you need to start, because we have to build from the base. And this is important. That is why our scholars gives important to understanding the manhaj in seeking knowledge. You cannot just seek knowledge whatever knowledge you want. That is wrong. But we must have a manhaj, a curriculum, or we say a methodology to build any knowledge. Because knowledge, remember, seeking knowledge is like building a house. It's not what I say. Our scholars say knowledge is like building a house. Imagine you want to build a house. There must be careful planning, correct? You cannot just tawakkal ala Allah and you just build. What you think, just get bricks and what you call it, just build whatever you want. But there must be planning, correct? Nowadays, when people want to build houses, they must engage at least architect. So the architect will design. Okay, how many stories you want in the house? Okay, we say, okay, let us make 3 stories, for example. So now the architect will gauge. Okay, the foundations must be a bit deeper than if you want to build a house in 1 story. But the higher the level you want to build, the stronger the foundation, because otherwise the house will collapse. And then the architect will look at the soil, whether it is soft or hard, or whether what you call it, how deep you can dig, whether there is a tunnel inside or no tunnel, or cables or no cables. And then the architect will design. Where is the kitchen? Where is the living room? Where is the bedroom? The water system, the electrical system, the aircon system. Everything has to be planned before any execution. Correct? So the architect will make a plan. And then after that the builders will come, the construction company. So based on what the architect design, now they will start to do the piling. And then start to build houses. And we engage the carpenters, and we engage what you call it, the electrician. So seeking knowledge also it is the same. We have to get an overview first. What are the knowledges that we need to have? So we have to go back first, Jami'ul Mushtarak, and before the Ahwal, we have to understand how we need to build our foundation. Our foundation then it must be strong. Our foundation then it must be deep. And that foundation then is the knowledge of Aqidah. So we have to understand the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to differentiate any between sifat salbiyah and sifat ma'ani. Then we have to learn about how to do tafakkur. All these things we mentioned in Hikmah before this. How to establish zikrullah, azkar, daily azkar, in the morning and in the afternoon. Recitation of the Quran. This is the building of foundation. Foundation has to be strong. Otherwise it's easy for shaitan to delude you. So we have to build our foundation and based on aqidah and adhkar. Understanding any Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also what you call it, understanding how to do tafakkur, because adhkar, zikr and fikr, it will strengthen our iman. Remember, knowledge of aqidah, not necessarily your iman can be strengthened if you learn tawheed. You can learn tawheed but your iman can be weak. Can, possible, because knowledge is a tool. But the thing that will make your iman strong, what is it? If you use it, knowledge of aqidah is a tool for you to strengthen your iman. We have to put into practice in zikr and fikr. So zikr and in fikr with the knowledge of aqidah as our tool, this is the thing that will increase your iman. So these are some of the things that we have to understand. Although you might find this is a simple thing, maybe some of you will think this is just simple, but it is crucial. It is about building any foundations, and it's very, very important. If you don't understand any of this, then it's tough. You can seek any knowledge, but you might feel something is wrong somewhere. So we have to what you call build our foundation. Then comes the knowledge of fiqh, knowledge of prayers, knowledge of fasting. We have to give first any importance to the knowledge of fiqh. Then together with it comes tasawwuf. Together with it comes the knowledge of tasawwuf. So this is the manhaj of ulama. We start off with aqidah, and then we enter into fiqh together with tasawwuf. So our scholars mention, do not straight away jump into knowledge of tasawwuf without aqidah and without fiqh, because that is dangerous. And this is also something we see in our society, that people only study tasawwuf without learning about aqidah and learning about the knowledge of fiqh. So this is not correct. The correct methodology is to start with al-aqidah. That is why if you read Risalah Jami'ah by Imam Ahmad bin Zain al-Habshi, what did he start in Risalah Jami'ah with? Risalah al-Jami'ah. He named it Risalah al-Jami'ah. Al-Jami'ah meaning encompassing. Al-Jami'ah. Here also we speak about al-Jami' al-Mushtarak. Why he named it Risalah al-Jami'ah, the encompassing Risala, or what you call it, letter, or we say article, because it consists of first thing, he start off speaking about tawheed, and then he speaks about what? Al-fiqh, and then lastly he speaks about tasawwuf. He's building your manhaj. That's why our ulama, they say this Risala Jami'ah has a lot of barakah. People learn in Risalah Jami'ah, they are able to attain a lot of benefit, because it build the methodology and manhaj. It build your foundation. So at least you have a foundation before you go on to other books. So this is the importance of books like Risalah al-Jami'ah. So this is basically what we meant as al-Jami' al-Mushtarak, that every Muslim must learn this, no matter who you are. So this is the first part of our lecture today. Al-Jami'u al-Mushtarak. Then comes any pertaining to actions, prayers, fasting, zakah, and so on and so forth. The second part of this particular wisdom, which Shaykh Ibn Atha al-Iskandari is speaking about, is what we call it as al-ahwal. Learning Jami'ul Mushtarak is not enough. You can learn about aqidah, you can learn about fiqh, and you can learn about tasawwuf and all these knowledges, and as what we mentioned. You can even learn the knowledge of fardu kifaya, like fiqhul jinayat and so on and so forth, or mustalah hadith and the knowledge of hadith. and tafsir and ulumul Quran and balagha and Arabic and nahu. You can learn all this. Yani your understanding of Islam certainly will increase. You will have a profound understanding with the correct methodology, with the correct manhaj. You will benefit. But this is not enough. When we speak about life as a Muslim, Islam doesn't only speak about Jami'ul Mushtarak, about the obligations that we have to do. But Islam teaches us about al-ahwal. That's what we mentioned. Situations. My situation is different than your situation. A person who is single is different than from a person who is married. A person who is in school is different than a person who is working. So we have different types of responsibilities. So once we study Jami'ul Mushtarak and it is a tool to understand ahwal. Without Jami'ul Mushtarak, you cannot understand ahwal. So we learn the Jami'ul Mushtarak, but the goal of Jami'ul Mushtarak not only to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the obligations that Allah has given us, but the goal of learning Jami'ul Mushtarak is how are we able to apply the knowledges that we have learned in our different situations in life. Because Islam is a way of life, and Islam is suitable for all age and time. Whether you live in this zaman or you live 1,000 years ago, it is the same thing. It is the same principle. In every situation, Islam gives you a solution. This is the beauty of Islam. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. Today I perfected your religion. This particular verse was said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Arafah. And this is one of the last verse given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah said, today I have perfected your religion. MashaAllah, religion 1,400 years ago. Allah said, perfect already. It comes into a state of perfection. So today we Muslims we are in need to understand what is the meaning of this perfection. How are we able to apply Islam in our daily lives? This is our challenge. But firstly, you have to understand this deen. Without understanding how are you going to apply? Without understanding the formula, you cannot apply in the equation. Correct or not? Even in mathematics. If you don't memorize the formula, if you are given a problem sum, you make mistake. Because you do not know the formula. Even you understand the problem sum. And the mistake in application is a mistake in what you call it? Basically any mistake in the problem sum. So in Islam also we have the principles and we have any formulas. The meaning of Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum is about this meaning as I mentioned. Islam gave you principles and formulas. So in every age and time you can go back to the same principles and the same formulas and then you can apply. And you attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you apply correctly. By going back into the formulas and going back into the principles. By understanding between Jami'ul Mushtarak and Ahwal. By giving any preference to the Jami'ul Mushtarak before Ahwal. So now let me give you an example of Ahwal. Understanding any situations. I always give this example, but it's okay. We repeat it again. It's a good example. Even Sheikh Buti likes to speak about this example. The example of a person who is single and a person who is married. Can you see the difference? The different situation. Last time you are single. And when we are schooling, we don't worry about giving nafaqah to anyone. Because we are taking in from our parents. Our parents are supporting us. We don't worry about work. Because we are not in need any of work. We are in need to study well to pass our exams. Our parents are the ones who are giving us the nafaqah. By the way, nafaqah in the Arabic language and basically not only nafaqah to the wife. Nafaqah meaning what you call it? It is like a what? maintenance now. We in Arabic, and we say, for example, the parents and in money, the parents and give any to the children is also nafaqah. Because sometimes in Malay when we say nafaqah, the only meaning any nafaqah any wife any to the wife husband into the wife. Actually in Arabic, nafaqah any goes back into a lot of things. The parents any when they are supporting you, that is nafaqah. And when you are supporting your parents any, for example, when your parents any are old, that is also nafaqah. So nafaqah any, it is a general word basically. So last time any when we are schooling, we are not any in need any to find work and to provide nafaqah for anyone, because we are the ones any who are receiving any nafaqah any from our parents. What is our obligation any when we are in school? What is the hal? Now I use any this word. What is our hal? Now this is this terminology in tasawwuf and in what you call it? Naam. In the knowledge any of tasawwuf. What is any our hal? Our hal, our condition, our situation is, our obligation is to study well, not to think about work. This is our obligation to who? To who? No, not parents. Obligation to Allah. Obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, everything any that we do, inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin. Make any your goal Allah, not makhluk. Makhluk any is asbab. Inshallah later I touch on this. But Allah is our ultimate goal. We do any everything for Allah. We work any for Allah. We study for Allah. And this is last year we speak about kaifa yushiku qalbun wa suwarul akwani muntabi'atun fi mir'atihi. How can a heart any be illuminated if it is not directed any to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? As long as any we have the greatness of makhluk any inside our hearts, there is a barrier between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Islam any taught us everything you do, Allah is our maqsood. Ilahi anta maqsoodi wa ridaka matlubi fa'atini mahabbataka wa ma'rifatak. This is the words of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jailani. Ilahi anta maqsoodi. Oh Allah, you are my maqsood. Our purpose any is not our parents, not our children, it's not our house, it's not our career, it's not our money, it's not our pension and CPF. Our purpose any is Allah. So everything any that we do, Islam any taught us, dedicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We dedicate any to Allah. When you dedicate any to Allah, there is barakah. But if you dedicate to other than Allah, there is no barakah. Just like any in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the hadith any of basmala, kullu amrin zibal la yubda'u fihi bi bismillahir rahmanir rahim fa huwa aqta. Everything that is of importance that is not begun by the basmala, fa huwa aqta, there is no barakah. Why? Because you have removed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the equation. Can you understand? Remove Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the equation. Yani meaning your intention is only ghayrullah. So when your intention is ghayrullah, you get ghayrullah. But if your intention is Allah, then there is a connection. Allah will give barakah. So when there is remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is our challenge today. This is about ahwal, where Sheikh Ibn Ta'ala is saying. Going back to the example earlier, when we are learning in school, our situation is to study. This is our obligation. Our parents are paying for our fees. We have any obligation to our parents. We have any obligations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in order for us to fulfill this obligation is to study properly and to study well with all our capacity. When we study in school and we have this intention that Allah is the one who put me in this situation, that my obligation is to study well for the sake of Allah, then only our studying is ibadah. Remember this, and please convey this to our youngsters, because our youngsters they do not know about this, most of them. I can tell you this, because today we are having a crisis in knowledge until today, where we differentiate between ukhawi and dunyawi, as though any students are learning in school, all of it are dunyawi, because government school. So there is no connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no benefit in akhirah, only get dunya only. This is dangerous. This is a musibah, ya jama'ah. Musibah. I call it musibah. And this is one of the attacks of Islam, for your information. If you study about the history about segregating knowledge, you will find behind them are enemies of Islam. The ones who propagated this. Yeah, study history. Read how the British came into Egypt. Very important history. What do they do when they first enter Azhar? They do not carry weapons. They do not do anything. What do? They go back to the books, to the knowledge, to the ulama, to distort the manhaj. The first thing the British did in Egypt, because these people they know that the power of Islam goes back to al-ilm, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us this. The first verse that is given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Iqra bismi rabbikal ladzi khalaq," and this is the backbone of our Islamic civilization. In order to weaken the backbone of the Islamic civilization is to weaken knowledge, is to make this ummah illiterate, just like how last time the pagans. Just like how the pagans, they were unlettered people, correct? Ummiyin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, وَالَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ. The moment you have an ummah that is ummi, mashallah, easy. Easy, to segregate, easy, to do a lot of things. When we are ignorant. So this is important. This is important. So we cannot let this happen in our society. We have to do something to educate people. So that is why in Islam, if a person study in school, depending on the knowledge, a person study medicine. So if we ask medicine, what is the ruling of studying medicine in Islam? You see, everything has a ruling, hukum. And this is the beauty of our deen. Everything has a ruling. Remember this. There is not a single thing in this dunya where there is no hukum. Everything has a hukum. That's why when we study fiqh, we study about al-hukm al-shari, also in usul fiqh. Khitabullah al-muta'alliq bi af'al al-mukallafin. The meaning of hukum is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is related to the actions of the mukallaf. Meaning everything that is done by the mukallaf, there is hukum. In knowledge of usul fiqh, and it is what we learn. We have taklifi and we have wada'i. The wajib, the sunnah, the makruh, the haram, the mubah. And then we have shart and mani' and all these things. Altogether we have 10. Taklifi and wada'i. Taklifi is about jami' al-mushtarak. Wada'i is about ahwal. Even in usul fiqh, what you can speak about this thing about jami' al-mushtarak and ahwal. Goes back into aqidah and goes back into usul. Learning medicine is fardu kifaya. Correct, no? Meaning, if you have a community, no doctors, 0 doctors, what happens? But you have all fuqaha, all ulama, all faqih, but not one single doctor. What happens into this community? Imam Ghazali, subhanallah, spoke in Ihya Ulumuddin, this example. He gave this example, and if you have the whole village fuqaha, but you don't have a doctor, it shows they do not understand. There is a lot of shortcoming in this village. Why? The whole village, imagine whole village in fuqaha, but no doctor. What happens to everyone in the village? Everyone bears a sin. Correct or not? Because when you say this is fardu kifaya, a doctor is fardu kifaya. And fardu kifaya doesn't mean, okay, one doctor enough. In one country, one doctor. No. Now when we ask, if there is a community, for example, 500,000 in a city, or 1 million people in a city, type 1 million people, how many doctors you need? If you go to general hospital and you ask the experienced doctors there, they will give you the answer. Like in Singapore, the government, they will put a quota. The number of doctors that we need, the number of engineers that we need, the number of researchers that we need. Countries that are developed, they will have this quota. And they will direct any student and they will give bursaries and give what? Scholarship. If they find, for example, there is a particular position, nobody is filling up, or they are in need any of IT experts, but a lot of people are not inclined into IT. So what they will do? They will give scholarship. They will find any people who are intelligent and has any the capacity. They will sponsor. Meaning they will do something, because why? They know the industry is in need. If the industry is in need any of chemical engineers, then they have to think of a way out. How you need to direct the students to study about chemical engineering, and so on and so forth. If they want to build any big project in the future, they are in need of engineers. So they will make sure that these are studied in the universities, so that the students, when they go, they know there's a project coming up. So this is the plan, and this is Fardu Kifaya. In Islam, we say Fardu Kifaya. Is this plan Islamic? Yes, it is Islamic. It is exactly in Islam. Because last time in our Muslim in Khilafah, this is the job of the Khalifa. This is the job of the Khalifa. You need to look at Fardu Kifaya. Which part of the country is in need of doctors? Which part of the country is in need of engineers? Which part of the country is in need of this and is in need of that? So this is Fardu Kifaya. So if 1 million people, for example, we are in need of 1,000 doctors, then the country has to produce 1,000 doctors. And this knowledge of learning medicine is Fardu Kifaya. Likewise, knowledge of engineering, and today knowledge of IT is Fardu Kifaya. 100 years ago, any people do not know anything about IT, information technology, when it comes to computers and so on. But today, any computers is used by every individual. Now it becomes any Fardu Kifaya. It becomes any Fardu Kifaya because it becomes something that is in need of societies. So how we understand this? The Quran speaks about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, huwa alladhi ansha'akum minal ardi wasta'marakum fiha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran that He created insan for istimar. I mentioned many times also last time in Hikmah that there are 3 purposes why Allah created insan. How many? 3 purposes why Allah created insan. Number 1, ibadah. And this is mentioned in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Number 2, khilafah. This is mentioned in the Quran, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Number 3, istimar. Please memorize this. So you can do da'wah to people. A lot of people ask, what is the purpose? Why Allah created insan? Say, Allah created insan because of 3, ya akhi. 3 reasons. People will benefit from you, inshallah. So, not only ibadah. A lot of people, they thought, okay, Allah created us only for ibadah. Khalas, ibadah. We do our prayers and fasting and so on. No problem. No, it's not enough. There is khilafah and there is istimar. There is khilafah and there is istimar. You must understand what is khilafah. Khilafah, how are we able to establish the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this face of the earth in our societies, not only individual. How are we able to establish in our societies? And this is a communal obligation. Fardu Kifaya. And then we have istimar. Istimar is about development. Khilafah is more general than istimar. Khilafah it includes tazkiyah, spirituality. Khilafah includes da'wah ilallah. But istimar, those professionals will be happy to hear. Istimar, it is about to develop societies. So one of the reasons Allah created insan is to develop societies and countries. How we get this? The Quran is speaking about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran. So that is why knowledge of engineering Fardu Kifaya. Why? Why Fardu Kifaya? We have also to understand why engineering is Fardu Kifaya. Why medicine is Fardu Kifaya. And then we do Qiyas on IT. IT is also Fardu Kifaya. How do we know that this is Fardu Kifaya and not Fardu Kifaya? Easy. Now when we speak about development, what do we need to develop societies? Ask any of the professionals. And if you ask any person who are in the field of what you call it development, and you ask the experts when it comes to infrastructure of a country, are those who are behind the planning of hospitals and buildings and IT, all these professionals. You see how any Islam, honor any these professionals actually. Only any if they know it. Because in the society we need these people. Because they are part of istimar. They are behind it. And they play a very important role. Do not think in this dunya. And this is also a problem. Some people think that all this in this dunya, engineering, medicine, no benefit in dunya and akhirah. Now this is also any musibah. This is part of istimar. Why we say knowledge of engineering and knowledge of IT and is fardu kifaya? Because these are the knowledges that we need for development. How do we know? And you ask any of the experts. They will tell you this. Imagine you don't have any engineers in the country. What happens? How you want to build building? And if you are in need and you are building houses, correct? No? People need to live in houses. So we need any engineers. We need architects. Architecture also is fardu kifaya. Now we need any IT because we are in need of communication. We are in need to do our jobs and using our internet and computers. The knowledge pertaining to computers, knowledge pertaining to handphone and all these things, it is also fardu kifaya because it is part of development. And we are speaking about this age. So we cannot speak about development 1,000 years ago. But we are speaking about the age that we are living. The development that we are in need, and this is fardu kifaya. So ya jama'ah, we have to have a inclusive understanding of Islam, and in this way we cannot just focusing on one aspect of Islam. Then how are we able to understand this deen? So we have to have a good worldview. Then we can understand that Islam is perfect. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. Today I perfected your religion, and Islam can be applied even in the modern time. Because nowadays we have people who say Islam is backward religion, cannot be applied in today's world. Some of the liberals are saying this. How are you able to counter this ideology? By learning about this deen, and by giving da'wah and speaking about these aspects of development, aspects of khilafah, aspects of ibadah, and the relation between ibadah and istimar. What is the relation between ibadah and istimar? This is what Shaykh Ibn Ta'ala is saying about Jami'ul Mushtarak and Ahwal. Jami'ul Mushtarak, the obligation that every one of us has to perform, and at the same time also look at Ahwal, to understand our role in our society, to understand our role in our houses, in our families, in our communities, as a citizen of a country, how we can give benefit to people. So subhanallah, and it is the beauty of this deen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with tawfiq. Right, now we go back into the example. I'm still at the example of the student. Inshallah, I finish by this example. So the student who's still learning in school, learning medicine for example. Right, we say this fardu kifaya. Every day he goes into school is fi sabilillah. Correct or not? Even though he goes to NUS is not madrasa. Correct or not? People say all these schools they are not Islamic. But Islam is saying that if you study, look at the subject that you are learning. If you are learning medicine, if you are learning engineering, if you are learning IT, this is fardu kifaya. When you understand it is fardu kifaya, and you understand this is an obligation, communal obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are learning to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your going into school is fi sabilillah. The hours that you spend in school will be given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with great rewards. And this is a form of ibadah for the student. So this is his situation. But if you say, I want to stop learning medicine, now I want to become an ustaz. This is what Shaykh Ibn Ta'ala is mentioning. When you are in a particular situation and you understand the ruling of the situation that you are in, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed you in this situation, you cannot go out from this situation. If you go out, it shows in your ignorance that you do not understand the situation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be. Because when a person is learning medicine and it is fardu kifaya, Imagine how many people can get benefit from him in the society. So this is how a Muslim man should think. But when it comes to the Jami'ul Mushtarak, when it comes to learning fiqh, everybody has to learn fiqh. Even a student and he has to learn about prayers, about fasting. That is Jami'ul Mushtarak. But when it comes into the situation, he must be focused on what? Focus on studying and getting good results and understanding, so that he can give benefit to the society after he graduates. So if this same person now finished schooling and now he's working, and then he got married, now he is entering from one hal and into another hal, one state and into another state. Last time he is schooling and he is depending on nafaqah from the parents, but now he is working. Now is time for him to do what? For him to give nafaqah, not any taking nafaqah from the parents. It is now the time for him to give nafaqah to the parents, and it is now time for him to look into zakah. And when the money reaches an nisab, then it becomes compulsory upon him to give zakah. Last time no zakah any miskin, depending on the money from the parents. Now the situation now change, and when he gets married, what happens now? Now he has to provide nafaqah for the wife. So he must find a source of income, because now the responsibility of nafaqah comes to him. Different than when he is a student. No need nafaqah. He is not giving anyone nafaqah. He is taking any nafaqah. But now the situation changed. He has to give nafaqah. So now he must think about what are the ways that I can attain nafaqah, so that I can give nafaqah to my wife and my children, and so on and so forth. So this is an example of the state shift from one state to another state. So Al-Imam Ibn Atta al-Iskandari mentioned that part of wisdom is to understand ahwal. But before ahwal, Jami'ul Mushtarak. Remember, work on Jami'ul Mushtarak, and then apply any Jami'ul Mushtarak into the situations. So while we are performing our obligations and in our situations, we must not forget the Jami'ul Mushtarak, and we must not forget that whatever things we do, we dedicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even in our workplace, I work for the sake of Allah, to fulfill the obligations that Allah has given me. Then your work become ibadah. But if a person is miskin and he goes to work, mashallah, and getting a lot of salary, but his main concern is only dunya, Allah is only in the masjid. But when it comes to work and so on, there is nothing relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is miskin. Why miskin? Because he does not get any rewards for his work. His work does not becomes ibadah, because he doesn't understand this quality. So imagine how knowledge can make you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just having this understanding, it will give you the difference between a person who is jahil and a person who is knowledgeable. Because just by knowledge, imagine the rewards you will get. If you work for 40 years, imagine 40 years of ibadah at your workplace. But if a person is miskin doesn't understand this, he thought ibadah is only in the masjid. Ibadah is only in the masjid. Once you go out of the masjid, no Islam. This is any miskin. So ibadah, you work for 40 years, but intention is dunya. When your intention is dunya, you will get dunya, but no Allah. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said, correct or not? All of you study Hadith Arba'in Nawawi. What is the first hadith? Pengajian students all memorize this hadith, insyaAllah. First hadith. What is the first hadith Arba'in Nawawi? Al-Imam Bukhari also placed this hadith in his Sahih. The first hadith, the hadith of Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, innamal a'malu binniyat wa innamal likulli imri'in ma nawa, faman kanat hijratuhu ila Allah wa rasulih fa hijratuhu ila Allah wa rasulih, wa man kanat hijratuhu lidunya aw imra'atin yankihuha fa hijratuhu ila ma hajara ilayh. Al-Imam Bukhari put this hadith first in his Sahih, even though it is hadith ahad, not mutawatir, because the only one who narrated from the Prophet ﷺ is Umar al-Khattab. One sahabi narrate from the Prophet ﷺ, and the one who narrated from Umar al-Khattab also one tabi'in. So we say this is in Mustalah hadith, we say hadith gharib. Because why? Only one person and you get the hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Different any from the hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he mentioned, man kazaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawa maq'adahu minan nar. This particular hadith, hundreds of Sahaba heard from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now this is mutawatir. But the hadith of Umar al-Khattab ahad. But ajib, why Al-Imam Bukhari any place any in the first, you open any Bukhari, there's a first any hadith. Our scholars ain't spoke any about this. Why? Imam Bukhari of all hadith, because you have many hadith in Bukhari and you have thousands any of hadith. And there are many hadiths that are more sahih than this particular hadith. In terms of sanad, in terms any of strength any of the sanad, many hadiths are stronger than this hadith, because this hadith is one person. But why did Imam Bukhari any place this particular hadith? Because any of this great any importance. Wallahi, if you understand this particular hadith, it will change any your life. Correct or not? Every single thing that you do, you get rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you understand. But a miskin and you don't understand this particular hadith, it's a big difference. Now, a lot any of your efforts and will go to waste. And the reason why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned this particular hadith about one particular person who does hijrah, and they call him Muhajir Ummi Qais. Muhajir Ummi Qais. Ummi Qais is a woman. He wants to get married. So there is this person in Makkah. He fell in love with someone. The name of that woman is Qais. And Qais entered into Islam, believe in the Prophet ﷺ. And then the obligation of hijrah comes. All those who have the ability to do hijrah, wajib and to do hijrah. So Qais said, tell this person, if you want to marry me, you also must hijrah to Medina. So this person, because of love, see the power of love. One thing about love, any people and they can sacrifice everything, correct or not? People and they can sacrifice their life because of love. So because of love, he does hijrah. But he does any hijrah because of what? Because he wants to marry. That's why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, awim ra'atin yankihuha. If a person does hijrah to get married and to a woman, fahijratu ila ma hajara ilayhi, he will get married, but he will not get any rewards for hijrah. But same thing, the tiredness in your hijrah is the same. Walk, and last time many people walk from Makkah to Medina. You cannot imagine nowadays. Today, if you walk from Medina, I don't know what happened to us. We might faint in there. Even we take bus today, we complain, right? 4 hours journey. Subhanallah, you look at the journey from Makkah to Medina, imagine you are riding camel or you are walking. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib walked from Makkah to Medina. And when he reached Medina, his feet swell. His feet, because of the heat of the desert. So you cannot imagine last time to travel from Makkah to Medina. But yet this person traveled for the sake of love. Love of the Ghayrullah, of the lady. So he get the lady. So they call him Muhajir Ummi Qais. This is the Muhajir Ummi Qais, the one who do hijrah for Qais. So he get Qais. But he does not get Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, this is a principle, that's what we mentioned. So likewise, when a person work and he understand that you are working for Allah, you get Allah. But if you are working for the dunya, what happens? Just for the salary. Just dunya only. I work for dunya. My Islam is only in the masjid. Or some people, khalas, no prayers, no nothing. My Islam is only in my heart. Some people say this. Islam is only in the heart. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan rasulullah, alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim. But no prayers, no fasting. And he's proud of his kalima shahada. Some people they are like that. Islam is only in the heart, but at least he's a Muslim. But for these people, if they do not make this intention, if you don't understand this difference between Jami' al-Mushtarak and Ahwal, you will be in a loss. Because everything that you do be in vain. How in vain? Because you don't dedicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are just like Muhajir ibn Qais. You put in a lot of effort, but no rewards, no sawab. Because your heart is directed to the dunya, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with iman, and Allah bless us with tawfiq, inshallah. So can you see the importance of this knowledge? This is where the Hikmah is focusing on. The Hikmah of Imam Ibn Atta' al-Iskandari, from the beginning to the end we speak about this connection. How you understand situations, how you understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, aqeedah, how you understand tasawwuf and the importance of adhkar and jami'ul mushtarak, seeking knowledge. So it is a complete. Sheikh Ibn Atta al-Iskandarian is teaching us the complete perfection of Islam. What is this akmaltu? Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and with the understanding. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. And because of time, I have to stop here. There are many other examples, and we can think about 1,000 any examples. Correct or not? And if you want to speak about situations, all of us, and we have different situations. Some of us are working, some of us are married, some of us not married, some of us are young, some of us are old, some of us, having any business, some of us are musafir, some of us not musafir, some of us learning about Islam, some of us learning about medicine, and so on and so forth. Islam, and it gives any ahkam. Every situation that you are in, Islam gives you the ruling and the solution. How you want to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your situation. But you just need knowledge to understand your situation. And that knowledge is the knowledge of al-fiqh, the knowledge of aqidah, what you call it, to understand what you call it, these issues. So inshallah ta'ala, we will, if there is any questions, you can ask. If not, then we will close with dua. Is there any questions so far? Yeah.
Continue to be appreciated ibadah to Allah, same for the intention of the niat aspect of it,